All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome into the first Vince NASCAR live stream. This is the first time I'm doing this, so let me know in the chat if you could see what's going on right now. Let me know how it looks, how it sounds, and let me know if you'd be interested in some more of this at some point. So today, if you saw the title, we're going to be talking about some of the NASCAR driver personalities, which is something that I did a video on actually a few years ago, but it's a pretty popular topic, talking about these driver personalities and such. So, let's get into it. And in the meantime, I will keep an eye out for any messages that you may be sending, to see if everything is working. Okay, so let's start out here with Corey LaJoie. So Corey LaJoie is he's got the podcast and everything, and we know he's like not a super popular guy, right? Especially with how things went last year. Like, he was like the most memed driver in the entire Cup Series last season. So like not a huge hey Rusties, what's up? So Corey LaJoie, I mean, yes, he was like memed on, but that was more for like on track stuff, and this is like a personality tier list, so we're talking about off track stuff, and I think Corey is he's pretty interesting. He's PR trained, so he doesn't say like stuff that's kind of like crazy, but he is he's not like a boring guy, like one of the criteria I'm looking for in this is like you either got to be like funny, or you got to be like interesting in some way, or like smart, or you got to be like just like a wholesome dude. And I think Corey has a little bit of everything, I feel like. So I'll put Corey in B. I could see an argument for him being like an A tier personality in NASCAR. So I'll put him in B. All right, Ross Chastain. So Ross is, of course, like we had that whole discussion like a couple of years ago about Ross being like the most, like he had the biggest star potential in all of NASCAR a couple of years ago. And that sort of is like fallen away a little bit. And I think that's a lot due to him sort of, he's an on track, he's like a pretty like aggressive guy. He's a pretty like, like tough driver, and like he's entertaining for his on track stuff. But in terms of like off track stuff, Ross Chastain, I feel like, when he gets out of the car, he's not a super interesting dude. Like he's very well PR trained. Like I was listening to the Dale Jr. download with him on it from last season, earlier today. And he really is like very careful with what he says and stuff like that. So and he's like he does kind of fit that like wholesome criteria where it's like, okay, like honestly, like listening to him, he's not like a super funny guy, but he is like it's a good time to listen to him. He's screaming, we just won the World 600 after he wins at Charlotte. So and he's got the watermelon thing. I mean, even though he's a lot of the time sort of can be stiff sometimes, I'll put Chastain, I'll say he's like maybe a low B tier personality in NASCAR. Okay. Okay, Austin Cindric here. Austin Cindric is, I think we don't pay attention to him a lot, with, when it comes to, we have all this stuff, where it's like, he's on Team Penske, but he doesn't win that much, at least, compared to his teammates. And, we kind of just like forget about him, especially compared to like when Brad was in the 2, where Brad was like a contender like almost every week for the win. And now we just don't really think about Cindric in the 2 that much. So he kind of like flies under the radar, but in terms of personality, like he is a pretty interesting guy. And I think Cindric is like a solid B tier, probably is what I would say. So we could put Cindric up in B tier. You know, somewhat of a funny guy. Consistently makes jokes, and like when they interview him, or when he's doing the interviews, like on the driver broadcast, he's always like, he always like keeps you invested a little bit. You like when he's on the screen, he's not just gonna like say random PR stuff. So, Cindric, I think you could put Cindric B. I could see an argument for A. Okay, and then Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon's an interesting one because he's not like a PR merchant like some of these other guys, so the face cam jump scare, yes. But Austin Dillon, he's not like a I would agree with Austin Dillon D tier, because I think he's not like a stale guy. Like he puts his personality out there, but like in my opinion, I just find like some of the things that he does like kind of cringe, to be honest. Like if we think back to like him winning the Daytona 500, and then he like dabs like after the win. I mean, it's kind of weird. So I would put him in D. I mean, there's some nice moments. Like I like him sliding through the grass. I think it was after the Coke 600 win in 2017. But and like credit to him for not just being like a PR merchant and just like saying whatever the sponsors want him to say, but just not as super interesting as some of these other guys. Noah Gragson, I think Noah Gragson. I'm seeing a couple A's for Noah Gragson. I think Noah you could put an S, to be honest. I think you could put Noah in S. He is like Gragson A, B. I mean, I think he's one of the better personalities in NASCAR, to be honest. Like every time they put the camera on Gragson, it feels like he doesn't even know what's going on. Like, and it's kind of funny. Like, and I mean this in like a good way. Like he just like he's not connecting with the interview. Like he doesn't like 90% of the other drivers go into like, okay, I'm being interviewed mode. And Noah Gragson doesn't do that. He just like sort of like has this weird way about him when he gets interviewed. So I like that. I like that he's always like sort of like willing to make jokes and stuff. He's not like super like locked in when it's race day. And I think for Larson, that's sort of like one of the problems for him as we move forward here. I think Larson, like if you think about when he's at the track, Kyle Larson, he's kind of like a boring guy. Like when they interview him pre-race and post-race, he just like says all the typical stuff, thanks his team, says, oh yeah, we have a shot to win today in the pre-race, thanks the team, thanks the crew chief in the post-race. But like when he's not at the track, I think Larson is actually a pretty interesting guy. Like if you think to like back when they had After the Lap, like almost 10 years ago now, I think he was pretty interesting in those sort of interviews. And then also like more recently, just anytime they interview him in like a studio, I think Larson is a pretty interesting guy. So I think Larson, he's kind of a PR merchant. I'll agree with you, Matthew Watkins. But I would say he averages out to C. If you combine him at the track being like too locked in, like he's just too locked in, like he doesn't have any personality at the track, and then in a studio on a weekday, like he's like one of the most entertaining drivers in NASCAR. So it averages out to C for me. Brad. Brad. I don't know. Brad. I would say that Brad. He's not like a funny guy, right? So like that doesn't really like bump him up. But I really like Brad's personality because like anytime they have him in the booth or they give him an interview, he's always like well spoken and thoughtful and smart, and you could just tell like there's some kind of like gravitas to that interview. And so I enjoy when I see Brad on the screen, on the broadcast. So for me, I think I would put Brad up an A. Brad. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Brad's A or B. So you don't have to be like funny to be a good personality in NASCAR. So I'll put Brad up an A. Justin Haley, I feel like I haven't seen enough from him, like, because he's just, they don't like interview him a ton. I will say that, like, if you think of his interview after winning at Daytona in 2019, I mean, for like a kid that just won his first NASCAR Cup race and like the back marker of the back markers, I mean, he's like, he gives like no reaction almost. He's just like wow, can't believe it, So I don't know. What is saying? Justin Haley, C, boring. I mean, I think Haley, just because I haven't seen a lot from him doesn't mean like he is boring. I think like if we saw more from him, like in the little things that I have seen, I think he's like pretty interesting. So I'll just be generous and give him C for now until I see more. And then Kyle Busch. Okay, Kyle Busch is. I think my take on this is going to be a little bit controversial. If this was like 2018 and Kyle Busch was doing like the crybaby face and like the I'm just here so I don't get fined stuff, then yeah, like, okay, Kyle Busch is like S tier instantly. But it's not 2018 anymore. It's 2025, and I feel like just when he's at RCR and he's not winning, like he doesn't have enough, like he doesn't have that as much room for being this like big personality, so I think that bumps him down a couple spots, to be honest. And I think I would put him, I would put Kyle Busch honestly at like the top of B, right? Because I mean, just like if you just look at him over the last like 2 years, he's kind of just like your typical driver. I mean, he's definitely pretty interesting, and that's why that's why I think he's at the top of B. I don't think there'll be that many guys in A or S, but I would like to see that like 2018 Kyle Busch a little bit more, but we just haven't seen that as much. I'm seeing a lot of skull emojis in the chat. Okay. Okay, Chase Elliott. I think he's like similar to Larson, right? Where he's like at the track, very, very PR focused. And then off the track, like outside the track, he has his moments, and stuff like that. I think he's less, like outside of the track, I think he's a little bit less entertaining than Larson, but I think it's really a lot of the same story. I'd put him at C. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people saying like Elliott has very little personality, he has no soul. I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but he's definitely not the most interesting of the drivers. So yeah, I'll put him in C. Ty Dillon is interesting, because like before this year with the in-season tournament stuff, like I would have put him in like F. Like I didn't even know. Or maybe I'd just be generous and put him in like D or C, because like I don't even know like Ty Dillon's personality really that much at all. But I think he's had some interesting quotes for the in-season tournament. I don't know. I'm saying S tier, the GOAT, Ty Dillon S. Yeah, I mean, for the little bit of personality that we have seen, it's been some good flashes, so I'll put him in B maybe. I'd say maybe the bottom of B. Definitely interesting. Okay, Denny Hamlin. I don't know if there's any argument here for Denny Hamlin other than he's S tier. He's just, he's got, and I think what's underrated for Denny Hamlin, as much as he like sort of like plays like the arrogant guy character, if you listen to his interviews, especially post-race, he's very, like, calm, well-spoken, understands both sides of the story. And, like, I really appreciate that from a driver. That takes a lot to be, like, be cool and level-headed like that in a way that's not just like a being a PR merchant. He's like he like genuinely, you could tell like he's really trying to understand everyone. So I like that from him. That's kind of like the Brad aspect, where it's like, his interviews are like you're interviewing a smart driver who's well spoken, but then he's also just like funny, right? He like sort of pokes fun at the fans, and he has that sort of back and forth stuff. So I'd put him. I'd put Denny up in S tier. Okay. Ryan Blaney. Ryan Blaney is, he's sort of a big personality, I guess. I feel like it's sort of almost overrated, that statement, that Ryan Blaney has like a big personality. He's an interesting guy. I don't know where. I'm seeing Blaney B, top of B, A easily. Blaney, he's interesting. But I feel like, at the track stuff is pretty typical for a NASCAR driver. Off the track, you see some moments and stuff like that. I'd put him in B. Maybe below Kyle Busch, I would say. I don't know if that sounds right. I feel like recently he has not been a big personality. Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe in these past couple of years, yeah. AJ Allmendinger, I actually really like AJ Allmendinger's personality. I think he's like, he's actually kind of funny. And when he's in the booth, he's been good and stuff like that. So, I'm a fan of AJ. I think AJ can get an A tier. Yeah, we could do that for AJ. Okay, Chris Buescher. Buescher can be a little bit interesting sometimes. A, D for Chris, D or C. Yeah, there's a bit of a wide range here. I think, like, a lot of the time he is pretty stiff, but, sometimes, like, I'm thinking, like, social media videos, he's, pretty keen on those to, take part in them, even if he's not sort of, like, leading the charge. So that gives him, like, a few points. Like, I don't know. I'd probably put him, like, top of C. I think he's a little bit more consistent than, like, Larson and Elliott, but it's not, like, super interesting. Okay, Chase Briscoe. Briscoe is not, like, a big, like, funny guy, but, like I said at the start of the stream, like, you could also be a good personality just from being, like, a wholesome dude, just, like, a good dude, and I think that Briscoe is that. So I'd put Briscoe up in A, to be honest. I just like listening to Briscoe. I like when he gives an interview, it kind of just puts a smile on my face. So yeah, I'll put Briscoe in A. Okay, Christopher Bell. I feel like this is where we start to get in, like, now we're getting into some rough ones. I feel like Christopher Bell is kind of like, Bell is SB. I think I'm lower on Christopher Bell here in terms of a personality. I don't know. I feel like he's pretty. He has his moments. Like, I'm thinking, like, I think the Martinsville win in 2022 was, he's like screaming at the camera and stuff like that. But I feel like most of the time we just don't really see that from Bell. I feel like he's just, like, sort of generic in a lot of the things that he does. Like, I'm honestly, I think maybe the chat might not like this, but I'm gonna put Christopher Bell down in C. Like, if we're talking about purely at the track, then, like, he's definitely lower than Larson and Elliott, but when you account for, like, the off-track stuff, I think Larson and Elliott are, a little bit higher. They average out to a little bit higher. Okay, Josh Berry. I haven't really seen much from him in terms of anything of interest. I don't know. Anyone have any takes on Josh Berry? B, yeah. He's very nice. Yeah. I mean, Josh Berry. I'll put him in the same sort of category as Justin Haley, where it's just like I haven't seen enough to sort of make a firm decision. Okay, Joey Logano. This is not going to be controversial at all. Joey Logano, let's see. S or A? S. Yeah, he's just Josh Berry. That's true. Yeah, Logano is A. Bottom of A. I kind of like Logano, even though he's kind of like way different from like when he's in the car versus out of the car. I kind of like the guy he is out of the car. Like I think he's like kind of funny, even though a lot of people call him cheesy. I'll put Logano in A, to be honest. Maybe bottom of A, but if you watch a Kyle Busch interview in 2025 versus a Joey Logano interview in 2025, like the Joey Logano interview is probably going to be more entertaining. So I think Logano is you got to put him above Kyle Busch, right? That would be my argument. Okay, Bubba Wallace. Yeah, Bubba Wallace, he's got like a little bit of a sense of humor, especially you look on like social media on Twitter. He's probably in the same category as Ryan Blaney. So, around that sort of top tier of B. I'd say he's a little bit more shows off the personality than Ryan Blaney. So I'll just put him a little bit above Blaney for now. Okay. Yeah, A for Bubba. Okay. William Byron. Okay, William Byron he's just a very stiff guy. And it's not like, he gets off the track and he's, pretty entertaining like Larson and Elliott. But Byron is, on the track. He's, at the track, pre-race, post-race interview. He's kind of stiff. And then, even if in a studio interview in the middle of the week, also kind of stiff. Like if you watch that, the Navy base video that they just released, he's like the smallest personality in it, right? He doesn't really talk much. So yeah, I'd put Byron in D. Yeah. Okay, Todd Gilliland. For me, Todd Gilliland is S. Okay. Todd is S. Okay. He's funny. Okay, just watch if you just watch like the golf video with him and Harrison Burton, I think you'll see my point there. Okay. Todd Gilliland's a funny guy, and he like made this joke like where he's like, he was like sort of in shock like when he first started in the Cup Series, like, oh, I'm racing with Kyle Busch and stuff like that. I find him to be a pretty funny guy, Todd Gilliland. Okay. Todd is S because he gave me a pickle. Okay, good, great. Okay. Riley Herbst. I don't think I heard Riley Herbst's interview. I'm not a huge Xfinity guy, so I'll just put him D. I don't really know. Zane Smith, I think it's like the same sort of deal, to be honest. I just don't really know with Zane Smith. Cole Custer, Cole, I think he's a little bit more interesting than like Josh Berry and Justin Haley, I guess. But I don't know. I again, like Haley and Berry, I just haven't seen much to like give a proper, good take on Cole Custer. John Hunter Nemechek, I mean, you got to bump him up just for the YouTube shorts that get like a bajillion views, right? You got to bump him up, right? We could put him in C. Put him in C, maybe a little bit higher. Maybe we could put him in B. We could put him up in B. Just purely off of the YouTube shorts. Okay. Eric Jones. I just think of how about that race, boys and girls. So I'll put Eric Jones. Eric Jones. What do we think with Eric Jones? A. B or C for Jones. Yeah, I think I could put him in B. He's at least a little bit interesting. Gives like a decent interview. Puts a smile on your face. Tyler Reddick. Tyler Reddick, I think I'd put similar to Jones, to be honest, around that B tier. I think like he's got that like cool head sort of stuff. Sometimes he's not, but when he does, like I'm thinking of like the Bristol Dirt Race in 2022, where it's like he's just like he's a cool headed, calm guy. So I like that from Reddick. So I think that's pretty interesting. B is good, yeah. Ricky Stenhouse. Ricky Stenhouse is a pretty big personality. I put him. I'll put him up at the top of B, right next to his best friend Kyle Busch. I think Stenhouse is B. Yeah, Ricky is B. I mean, he's like, he's got the sort of like the confrontations and stuff. But I mean, other than that, it's not like he doesn't have like a huge sort of deal going on. I do actually think of like when he won, I think it was Daytona in 2017. He's just like gets out of the car and he's like 1776, we are the champs. So I still find that funny and think about that pretty often. Okay, Alex Bowman. I think Alex Bowman is like far and away the best personality at Hendrick, right? Like I'm thinking of like the social media videos where Alex Bowman is like holding the camera and he like pans it over to Byron, Larson, and Elliott, and like all three of them just like don't say anything, and then Bowman's like making jokes. So he's got like the woo NASCAR stuff, and yeah, Bowman is usually he's doing something funny. So I'd actually put him like top of A, to be honest. Bowman has a really good personality. Yeah, I agree. Okay, Cody Ware. I don't even know with Cody Ware. Again, I just put him down by like Riley Herbst. I don't think I've ever like heard a Cody Ware interview. So Cody Ware S, yes, he's S. He's the GOAT. Welcome to the playoffs, Cody Ware. I'm gonna delete F because I don't think anyone's making F. Okay, Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs. Ty F? No. I mean, he's kind of like in the Austin Dillon tier, to be honest. I think he's a little bit better than Austin, but he's kind of just like stiff in the interviews, and then like the moments that he does have, kind of rough, So, I'd put him in D, top of D, because I feel like he does have some good moments, but yeah. Priest is going to be high up there. I think Priest you could put in A. I'll put him above. I think I put him right here next, above Brad. He's pretty funny on social media if you follow him there, and then of course he's got a lot of stuff to joke about too, like with the flips at Daytona and stuff. So it's kind of easy home runs for him, for Ryan Priest. Yeah, good social presence. Yeah, Michael McDowell. I like Michael McDowell. I mean, he's not like the most interesting, but he is like again, like if you think about an interview, like would you rather listen to a Michael McDowell interview in 2025, or would you rather listen to like a Ross Chastain interview? I think I would rather listen to a Michael McDowell interview, because he's usually just got some like such a positive mentality. So I'll put McDowell up. I mean, he's not like super high in A tier, but I'll put him like towards the bottom. Okay, Hocevar. Hocevar, I think you got to put in S, right? I like Hocevar. I think the social media presence is big for him. I think it's probably the biggest of any driver. Like in terms of like, other than just like they have a lot of followers because they're like very famous, but yeah, Hocevar, interesting driver. Streams a lot, so always fun when you hear something from Hocevar. Jimmy Johnson. I mean, Jimmy is somewhat interesting when you listen to him. I do like how well spoken he is and like how thoughtful he is. So I think I'll honestly put him towards the top of B, even though he's not like a funny guy, right? But yeah, Jimmy's probably like B, A or B. Yeah, I put him at the top of B, even though it makes this whole thing look weird now. But yeah, Jimmy and B. SVG. Okay, I'm gonna put SVG up like at the very top of B because I really like when he just like gets out of the car and just like he just won, he just destroyed everyone, and he's just like, yeah, it was a good race, yeah. He's just like he doesn't really like care, and then he's just like a wholesome dude, like guy from New Zealand who just won. So I really like SVG's personality. So yeah, I put him up in the top of B. I don't know if I could quite put him in A because he doesn't really like have much else going for him other than just like being like a happy guy in his interviews. And then Suarez, we could maybe put at the bottom of B. Yeah, so Suarez at the bottom of B, just because like he does have some funny moments, and he is pretty good in the booth when they have him, even though like. I'm sure some people struggle to understand him, but yeah, I mean he's got like some stuff that he's got like the taco celebration and stuff. So yeah, Suarez he's not exactly like a piece of cardboard. I mean, if he was like if his native language was English, like I feel like he would be a much higher up on this tier list because he's like I don't think he's like a PR merchant at all. I think he's like a pretty interesting guy, and he always sort of wears that on his sleeve, just gets sort of lost in translation a little bit, I feel like. So that's it. That's the personality tier list. If anyone has any questions now or objections, then let me know. I could start to go through them. I'm not putting BJ McLeod or Catherine Legg, whoever is driving the 78. I don't even know. I'm not even sure I know what BJ McLeod looks like. You love Austin Cindric for always being so nerdy by how he dresses. I don't know if I've ever seen him like. I don't know if I know how he dresses. I always see him in the fire suit. I think only changes I would make would be Cindric and John Hunter Nemechek going higher. Cindric and John Hunter. Yeah, I mean, I just haven't seen a lot from Nemechek so that's like more on my end. If Nemechek is like actually like a good personality, and then Cindric, yeah, I could definitely see him being higher. Honestly, he might be above. He might be like. I'd probably put him up here. Upon further inspection. Okay, Cindric is a very good personality, but he's also very introverted. Yeah, I could see that. Cindric's good on TV. Yeah, I agree. Christopher Bell has a very relatable personality if you're socially awkward like myself. True fact. Okay, all right. So, yeah, I won't draw this out any longer. If I don't know, what did you guys think of the first ever Vince Moscar stream? Good tier list. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you all for coming. And if you would like some more of this, then let me know, and we can make that happen at some point. Otherwise, that's it. Thanks for watching, everyone.